Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about 7 basic mistakes. When I say basic, not necessarily the mistake is basic, but they're common in basic investing, especially when you start out and you want to stick to the fundamentals. These are basic mistakes that I probably made, and many people have made during their investment career. So we're going to go over them in the hopes that you learn from them and you don't have to suffer them. The first thing is investing in something that you don't quite understand, or you think you understand, but you don't. So, full understanding of the business model that you're investing in is absolutely important. A great example of this is Warren Buffett in the 80s could have invested in Apple, but didn't. Just didn't understand why anyone would want a computer in their house. And to him, computers were these big things that did complicated, calculations and governments and scientists would use, but he didn't see the purpose. And up until much later, he didn't invest into Apple. He does now, though, because he understands the business model. And again, just because you think you understand it, it's not necessarily true. So, a business that's, let's take CN Rail again, trains. Okay, so they make money transporting freight from point A to point B. Simple business model. However, when you really dig in, they have a lot of fixed costs, variable costs, right? Rail maintenance, engine maintenance. They have fuel as a variable cost. They have all sorts of stuff that can shift around and move the landscape of their business model. Now, for them, it is fairly stable, and I like it. But understanding that how they make money is only one side. How they operate, what can affect them, that's a whole other thing that you have to factor into the business model of the company, because that's what profitability is going to come out of. Next is lack of patience. So I it happens probably more than it should. Uh, I think it's part of our conditioning. We want things to happen very quickly, and or if nothing is happening, we sort of get bored, and then we start buying or selling just to keep things fresh. And that is actually almost all the time proven to work against you. So be patient. These things are glacier speed. Think of again, Warren Buffett, his investments. When he finally makes the decision to jump into a position, he's in it usually for 25, 30 years, uh, and then some occasionally. So be patient. Next, so falling in love with the company or absolutely hating the company. Uh, these emotions have no real place in, I don't want to say the business world, but in stock investing, these will either force you to hold on to a stock for longer than you should, just because you love the company and you're giving them a pass on negative performance or bad performance, or you may not invest into a company that has a really good business model, profitability, and scaling up ahead because you don't like them. And closest example I could say for me was probably National Bank. And personally, I would never be a client of National Bank. However, I have to put that aside and be, oh yeah, maybe their stock is viable or valuable or shows promise. Part of the reason I don't like National Bank is when I was a kid, I had my accounts there from, I don't know, probably 10 years old on. And when I was in my early 20s and I went there to have to get a mortgage, uh, they just basically turned me away cold. Like no negotiation, no, you need a cosigner or bigger deposit. It was just like no. And so I took my business elsewhere, got a mortgage elsewhere. But that being said, I hold a little bit of a grudge for having been since I was a little boy, a customer of that company, and they just turned me away. But I have to park that and consider their stocks, their yearly reports, independently of my feelings, of my hate. I think hate's a bit of a strong word, but anyway. Um, Next one, too much turnover. So if you're jumping in and out of positions, basically you're following market sentiment, you will undoubtedly lose money. So you will jump at EV when the prices are really high because everybody's like, oh, new records on whichever company or technology. And then when the stocks stumble a little bit, and the media says, "Oh, new down or down such amounts of points today," you'll start to feel the panic and you'll jump out. And then when they go back up again, you'll jump back in. And that's terrible, terrible, terrible. In fact, you should be contrarian. So when the stocks are down, buy more. When they're high, sell or hold. So yeah, uh, no turnover. And I guess the best way to think of it, Peter Lynch said, when you sell a stock, or the sooner you sell a stock after buying it, the bigger the mistake you're admitting. That's a good way to look at it. Attempting to time the market. This comes up quite a bit as an excuse, but as an excuse for not investing in some cases, but also just to try to time for maximum profit or whatever it is. It is nearly impossible. It has happened to me before out of sheer luck that I timed the market, and occasionally when you're in the middle of a crisis, you can, like say 2020 when the markets dropped 30 or 50%, you can kind of predict a recovery from that point. You don't know where the bottom actually is, if they still have, some down to go, or when they're going to start going up, but you can sort of predict from there, and that's as close as you'll get to timing it. But I might have bought 30% on the dollar, or at 30% discount in 2020, and have it fall another 30 or 50%, and I would have been in the red just like everybody else. Waiting to get even. So this one's a strange paradox. I'll try to give you not a paradox, but strange example. So you buy a stock, you like it, it goes down, and it stays down for a while, sometimes years, under your buy price. Hopefully you're getting a small dividend during this time, but sometimes not. An example of this, I'm going to pick on Amazon. I could easily go Google, but Amazon split adjusted, let's say you bought it at $4. This would have been probably 99 or so. And then with the dot-com crash, it stayed below $4 up until July 2007. And finally it met parity. And then some people were like, finally, this horrible stock that's been down for almost a decade, I'm going to let it go because now I'm at break even. Or they just get above break even and they let it go. They're like, finally, I locked in a small profit. Well, if you held on to today, it's at $180. So think of that, going from $4 to 80. That's a profit. So waiting to be even is really not a good strategy when you're considering the ones that I've lost. Another thing to keep in mind with losses, or seemingly losses, is that a stock can move by 50% of its yearly high at any given moment. So it's not rare if you see a stock that has a 52-week high of $100, let's say, it might go to 50 during that year span. So if you see it at 75, you're like, yeah, that's a good deal. And then it drops to 50, and if you told yourself, and I've met people who say, like, if it goes down 10%, I sell because I don't want to lose more money. Well, in many cases, you're just guaranteeing you're going to lose 10% because there's a good chance it's going to move more than that on the negative side for no real good reason economically or business-wise, but it happens. So don't try to wait. And again, this is a bit of a side effect of timing the market, but inversely. And then last one. So letting emotions rule. So fear or greed is it doesn't work very well. There's actually the CNN Fear Greed Index, which shows like if the market is being greedy, you should be fearful and let go. And if the market is fearful, it's time for you to buy. Now it's a little bit too volatile. If you consult it, every day or every week, sometimes it just goes from greed to fear to greed to fear, and you don't want to be, triggering on that. But if it's been hovering low in the fear zone, those are good signs. It's probably time for you to buy. Uh, it also probably comes from our broken system. It's not broken, but perception is extremely quick, right? We perceive events, we have to judge them really quick. That's how our fear mechanism works. That's how we survive, is we react on what we perceive extremely rapidly. But we process logically slowly. When we gain perspective on something, it's much more slow. So volatile movement on a daily price range causes a perception of trouble, and then fear kicks in or whatever. And you want to try to break that human mechanism that's been there, because it doesn't belong in investing, at least not necessarily. So there you have it. I think that was 7 and not 8. Sorry about that. But hopefully this helps newbie investors not make these mistakes, or start calibrating their internal systems so that they don't make these when they start investing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe.